I need to buy a tire." The big man glared at him for a moment, then said flatly, "Now." "I can see you're busy," said Atticus, as if that might be the problem. "I'm not asking you to change it for me. Just sell me the tire and I'll—" "No." "I don't understand. You don't want my money? You don't have to do anything, just—" "No." The big man crossed his arms. "You need me to say it another 50 times? Because I will." And Atticus, fuming now, said, "That's a wolfhound tattoo, right? 27th Infantry Regiment." He fingered the service pin on his own lapel. "I was with the 24th Infantry. We fought alongside the 27th across most of Korea." "I wasn't in Korea," the big man said. "I was at Guadalcanal and Luzon, and there weren't any niggers there." With that, he bent under the truck hood again, his back both a dismissal and an invitation, leaving Atticus to decide which way he wanted to take it. The collective indignities of the past months in Florida made it a closer call than Atticus liked. The little man on the stool was still looking at him, and if he'd said anything, or even cracked a smile, Atticus would have gone in swinging. But the little man, perhaps sensing how quickly he could lose his teeth, even with the big man to protect him, did not smile or speak, and Atticus stalked off with his fists at his sides. Across the road was a general store, with a payphone on its front porch. Atticus looked in the guide and found a listing for a Negro-owned garage in Indianapolis, some 50 miles away. He placed the call and explained his predicament to the mechanic who answered. The mechanic was sympathetic and agreed to come help him, but warned that it would be a while. "That's okay," Atticus said. "I'll be here." He hung up and noticed the old woman inside the general store watching him nervously through the screen door. Once again, he chose to turn and walk away. He went back to the car. In the trunk beside the useless spare was a cardboard box filled with battered paperbacks. Atticus selected a copy of Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. He sat in the Cadillac and read about the rocket summer of 1999, when winter snows were melted by the exhaust from a Mars-bound spacecraft. He imagined himself aboard, rising into the sky on a jet of fire, leaving North and South behind forever. 4 hours passed. He read all of The Martian Chronicles. He drank warm Coke and ate a sandwich, but mindful of the gaze of passing motorists, he did not touch the fried chicken. He perspired in the breezeless June heat. When his bladder could no longer be ignored, he waited for a lull in the traffic and went behind a sycamore that grew by the roadside. It was after 7 o'clock when the tow truck arrived. The driver, a gray-haired, light-skinned Negro, introduced himself as Earl Mabry. "Earl, just Earl," he insisted, when Atticus tried to call him Mr. Mabry. He lifted the replacement tire from the rear of the tow truck. "Let's get you back on your way." With the two of them working together, it took less than 10 minutes. The simplicity of it, and the thought of the afternoon just wasted for no good reason, started Atticus fuming again. He stepped away from the car to compose himself, pretending to study the sun, now hanging low on the horizon. "How far do you have to go?" Earl asked him. "Chicago." Earl raised an eyebrow. "Tonight? Well, that was the plan." "Tell you what," Earl said. "I'm done for the day. Why don't you come home with me? Let my wife fix you a real dinner. Maybe rest a while." "No, sir, I couldn't." "Sure you could. It's on your way. And I wouldn't want you to leave Indiana thinking it's all bad people." Earl lived in the colored district, around Indiana Avenue, northwest of the state capitol building. His house was a narrow, wooden 2-story, with a tiny patch of grass out front. When they arrived, the sun had set, and clouds were blowing in from the north, hastening the darkness. In the street, a stickball game was in progress, but now the mothers of the players were calling them inside. Earl and Atticus went inside, too. Earl's wife, Mavis, greeted Atticus warmly and showed him where he could wash up. Despite the welcome, Atticus was apprehensive sitting down at the kitchen table for many of the obvious topics of dinner conversation: his service in Korea, his stay in Jacksonville, today's events, and most of all his father in Chicago, were things he didn't really care to talk about. But after they'd said grace, Earl surprised him by asking what he thought of The Martian Chronicles. "I saw you had it in the car." So they talked about Ray Bradbury and Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov, all of whom Earl liked, and L. Ron Hubbard, whom he didn't, and the Tom Swift series, which Earl had loved when he was young, but which embarrassed him now, both for the book's depiction of Negroes and for the fact that as a boy he hadn't known.